So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the CEA and NAWIC Women in Construction Industry Panel. We appreciate your attendance and interest today. And this week, March 6th through the 12th, is National Women in Construction Week. And for several years, we've been partnering with NAWIC to offer education, but also celebration of women in construction as a need to support, develop, grow women in our industry. Oftentimes we talk about inclusion and we think race only, but certainly gender equity is an important aspect that needs to be celebrated and developed. So we're pleased to be able to work with NAWIC and others, all of you as well, your companies, to again celebrate opportunities for women in construction. So my name is Glenn Shoemate. For those who don't know me, I work for CEA, Construction Employers Association. We're an association primarily of union contractors. Primarily three areas that we focus on. We bargain labor contracts for about 14 unions. We also provide labor relations, resolving any differences between labor and management. Secondly, a lot of education and training, and I think on your desk or tables there are flyers, brochures of some of the upcoming educational classes. We offer about 125 classes a year, train about 2,500 individuals. So certainly encourage your personal growth and participation, but certainly also employees, colleagues. The third area of our involvement is really what I'd label as public affairs, and it covers a range of topics, right? So anything from interface with public officials. We have three with us today that I'll introduce. We also are focused on diversity and inclusion in our industry, as well as workforce. And those are the areas that probably fall under our public affairs efforts. The safety hats in the back represent our board members, companies that they actually belong to. Safety is a very important part for us at CEA and for our industry. You also see a banner in the back that says Cleveland Builds, Investing in Clevelanders. That's our workforce effort and activity that we fostered about a year ago, 10 months maybe, to really expand upon providing Clevelanders, greater Clevelanders, with jobs in union construction. And somewhat diversity and inclusion, but really it's just identifying talent in our industry. So that means marketing, promoting good careers, good paying jobs, providing some entree, training, understanding, relationship building. So it's not only adults, but it's also reaching out into schools. The third area, if you will, under workforce, if you will, or second area is the ACE Mentor Program. And I think most of you have an ACE brochure on your table, and hopefully everyone's familiar. If not, we hope that you will become familiar. I have several people in the room associated with ACE Mentor, which is architecture, construction, engineering. We're in 13 high schools, Cleveland primarily, but also Warrensville and Shaker Heights, and serve pre-COVID about 220 students, providing career pathway exposure for them to learn about our industry, also scholarships and internships, and ultimately careers and jobs in our industry. So very, pleased about those efforts and activities to build future talent, both in the management, design, and engineering sides for our industry. I'm going to ask, I guess, Councilwoman Conwell, County Councilwoman Conwell, and Councilwoman Turner to come up and share a few words. And I believe they may have a proclamation for Suzy and Kelsey. Kelsey still here? Oh, come on up.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Yvonne Conwell. I'm Meredith Turner, and we are here to celebrate you. Why do we need more women in construction? Because it reflects the society that we live in. We use the spaces, so we should be building them too. So we like to
As Councilwoman Conwell also referenced, there is a City of Cleveland Councilwoman Stephanie House, who is newly elected to that position, who is with us today. And she also has a proclamation for us.
Yeah, so they. So this really is, yeah, we got to. That's what it is. Sister in the opportunity of advancement. And I just want to say congratulations and thank you all for convening a space where women can come together, learn together, network, and grow and build. So on behalf of Cleveland City Council, thank you all. Okay, we gotta take our leave here.
Would you like one, Councilwoman?
It was a hanging chad.
It says an election official, former. But if you want to, let's take a photo for the county. Sure, sure. You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the one thing about public officials, there's always protocol. And sometimes we need to be called on protocol, right? So thank you for your participation, your support, and celebration with us this afternoon. We're pleased that you could be here. So we do have, beyond you in the room today, we have half a dozen, maybe a dozen people who are actually on Zoom with us this afternoon who are going to participate that way. We'd ask you on Zoom to silence your audio. Certainly you can use the chat function and we'll monitor that for questions, which we'll take in probably the second half of the panel. And they've requested certainly for the panelists to make sure that you use your microphone so they can hear you. This isn't necessarily the best equipped room for audio, but it's one that we wanted to at least extend an opportunity for those who couldn't be with us physically based on space limitations or other challenges to at least participate virtually. I think this is our fourth year of having a panel discussion in this room. And they've had various iterations of panelists in the past. And it really is one that I think there's great stories, great perspective that can be shared, learned to help develop those who are advancing in their career, in their industry, but also celebrating those who have already advanced. And we have a pretty diverse panel today based on background and specialty, which you'll hear from. I will now introduce Suzy Chaplin, who is the WIC Week, Women in Construction Week chairwoman, if you will, for WIC Week for NAWIC. And we appreciate her leadership. There's a number of other events and activities that they planned pretty much every day this week. And so we're pleased to again be able to partner with NAWIC and with Women in Construction. So Suzy. And I would probably from an introductory standpoint also say that Suzy works for Redwood Living. She recently changed from being she moved into safety and compliance, I think, role with Redwood, and they're basically a apartment housing developer in 8 or 9 states here in the US. And so she's been at a couple of different other companies in our industry. I think you and I met about 10 years ago when you first moved to town. You hadn't been that long?
It's been 5 years.
5 years? All right, all right. So we're, it's been great to, again, work with you and this week in particular, coordinating programming and for the last 5 years as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all again for being here. We truly appreciate it and the due diligence and getting everything coordinated, Glenn and CEA, as well as Courtney for helping set up with the audio. I do just want to take a moment and talk about NAWIC. So for those who do not know, NAWIC stands for the National Association of Women in Construction. We are a leading professional association, and currently we are celebrating our 24th annual Women in Construction Week, which, as Glenn stated, runs from March 6th through the 12th. We have several events lined up that is posted on the NAWIC website. I know there's a link on there. It doesn't really break out the activities, but you're more than welcome to go on the site and register for events that are happening this week. In addition, we were founded in 1953 and we currently have 116 chapters. So if you are not from Cleveland, Ohio, and are interested in joining NAWIC, please check out the website and join. It's a fantastic organization that provides educational, professional development, scholarships, and mentoring throughout your career and development. So please look into it if you're interested. And we have several NAWIC ladies here in person. So please reach out to them if you have any questions or concerns. With no further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists that are here. And they're coming in from different fields within the construction industry, and they're going to offer advice and experience from things that they've experienced throughout their careers. I will start with Heather Baines, who owns her own HR construction company. They provide services such as safety and other needs in the construction industry, such as laborers for jobs when needed, inspections, and any personnel to fill any of those positions. In addition, they do training for their employees to make sure that they can meet the demands of the task out in the field as well in the office. So welcome, Heather Baines. Next, we have Cindy Liedston, who is the Vice President of Capital Construction and Facilities at Cuyahoga Community College, or Tri-C. And she has been with Cuyahoga Community College for 12 years now. She possesses a very, very vast amount of experience and helps with supply and demand, architectural engineering, programming, design, pretty much any elements in construction. She kind of handles and facilitates that all in all. She was the recipient of a prestigious Woman of Note feature in the Crain's Cleveland Business in 2019. When she takes her hard hat off, she is a member to the Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Construction Diversity and Inclusion Owner Group, Construction Engineering Society, Cogence Alliance, Construction Owners Association of America, Construction Management Association of America, and more notably, the one that Glenn mentioned, ACE Mentorship. So it's not like she doesn't have enough on her plate. Next, we have Sonia Rice. She is a partner at Hound Lausers Construction Law Firm Practice Group. She helps with contractor contracts, helps with commercial transactions, and most importantly, negotiations of the ins and outs. She has also been represented in the she has represented Fortune 500 companies and is a frequent speaker to a variety of topics, including contract terms, construction contract negotiation, claims avoidance, and risk mitigation. In addition, she is a professor of practice at Case Western Reserve University. So welcome, Sonia. Last but not least, we have Rena. Rena Suwall is a human resource manager with a decade of successful experience in the human resource function. She currently works at Turner Construction. She began her career at Turner in 2018, so she brought in all of her years of experience, really dove in at a large construction management company. She supports the Cleveland and Toledo business units as the human resource generalist, and also has added the Detroit business unit under her leadership as well. In December of 2022, she will be graduating with her MBA from the Cleveland State University. Welcome, Rena. With that, we are going to start our Q&A for the panelists. And before we start, I do want to allow each of the ladies to kind of do a quick little intro, talk about how they started their career and how many years they've been in their profession. So Heather.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. HR Construction Services is the name of my company. I am the president. A lot of times, because everybody hear HR, they think human resource. She got some of the stuff right, but I'm going to tell you what I actually do, which I love it. My tongue got tied here. I provide safety services. That's one of many things that I do, but I'm known in the industry because I'm a signatory to the iron workers. I have rod busters. So we work with concrete companies and we place rebar. So when you walk on the sidewalk and you see that rust in the ground, that's what we do. So we're the strength of the concrete, truly. We also will pour a little bit of concrete, but not too much. We also work on small projects, as well as provide safety personnel to different companies, whether we do inspections for them or whether we place safety people on different jobs. What else was I supposed to say?
I think that, how many years?
And I've been in the construction arena, I want to say about 21 years now.
Good afternoon, I'm Cindy, and I've been working now like 35 years, and I started out studying supply chain and business, and I was in the manufacturing industries for about 16 years, and then spent a little bit of time, about 4 or 5 years in the healthcare industry until I got to the college. So I've been with the college now about 11 years. And the supply chain background, I got involved the construction through at the clinic and in manufacturing on the capital equipment side when we were doing expansions to manufacturing or when we were building new buildings. So doing the capital equipment side. And then when I got to the college, the first 5 years, I really focused on the supply chain and automating our systems. And, but again, got involved in capital, and this opportunity came up about 6 years ago. And so we were getting ready to do about 250 million of new construction and renovations. And so we have successfully completed that. We've got like the last 4 or 5 months to go. And we are doing all the master planning now. So now we've done our big, large build and we'll go into our master planning phase. And so I have a mix of engineering and architecture and project managers that work for me. And then we work with the college about figuring out, what is the next phase as we grow. So it's been a good journey, came to it a different way, but it's been a great experience. And the NAWIC and CEA, involvement has been tremendous. I really have met a tremendous amount of people and appreciate the support. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sonia Rice. I'm a partner at Hahn Lozier and Parks, and I feel a little tongue-tied with my colleagues up here on the panel with such impressive backgrounds. I'm not really sure what I can say that's as impressive as what's already been said. Like Cindy, I kind of came into construction law from a different angle. I didn't come out of law school knowing that I wanted to be a construction lawyer. But it just so happened that a couple of my biggest clients were in the construction space. And so I started getting an expertise and some experience in construction litigation, so resolving construction related disputes. And later on, I decided I wanted to switch over to the transactional side and negotiate construction contracts and advise my clients on how to mitigate their risks in construction, how to make sure their construction contracts are solid and will protect them. Oh, what I was supposed to say, how long I've been practicing law for 20 years, and about all of those 20 years, I've been representing clients in the construction space. I've been a member of NAWIC, so I don't know if I see any familiar faces here, but I have been a member of NAWIC and have been at CEA thanks to invitations from Glenn to give numerous presentations and lead seminars here. So I hope to see some of you again next time I'm here to lead a seminar. And I really, like I said, I'm not as impressive as my colleagues up here.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rena Suwall. I've been in HR for about 10 years. I always say that HR kind of finds you. It seems like it's not something most people tend to desire to go into. It's something you kind of fall upon. So that's kind of my story. When it comes to construction, I never envisioned being in a career in construction and HR. It just, again, kind of happened. About 4 years ago, I saw an opportunity and I applied, and everything just fit just right with Turner for me. So I love the industry. I love the company. I love what I do. I love helping people. And that's really, what I'm here to do today, is hopefully share some of my knowledge and experiences with all of you.
Thank you, ladies. So with that, I do want to open up the room to discuss one of the questions. I think, Ren, I'm going to start with you just to kind of switch up the order a little bit. What is the most challenging barrier that females face in the construction industry? And is there a way to overcome this? And from an HR standpoint, do you see the difference between male and female as they come to your office and, go through negotiations with positions?
Yeah, loaded question.
Yeah,
there.
there was.
Let's pick it apart. So the biggest challenge I would say in the industry is just, I think, having more individuals see that it's a career path that they can go into as you're in school, understanding that there's others there that are kind of forging that path for you. So I've definitely seen in the past few years an increase in our hiring of women in construction, which has been wonderful to see. So just knowing that your work isn't not being noticed, it's being noticed, and that we just need to continue working in that space, showing students, showing our younger generations what they can do and how they can be future engineers and builders in our communities and in our world. In the HR perspective, I would say when it comes to coming into a new organization, no matter where that is or what you're doing, I will see a difference upon women normally with negotiations. When we typically make offers, I will always kind of pause and give an opportunity for somebody to negotiate. I'll say any questions and such of that nature. And typically males will say yes, and they'll ask for more, and more women will not. I'm seeing that increase slowly. I'll see them ask for something else, or just even giving that extra pause kind of helps them fill in that gap of silence and say, you know what, actually, I'd like to ask for a little bit more, or I'd like to ask for this instead. So I think that's been an area, definitely you can see the differences as we grow.
Thank you. Cindy, same question. So working with Tri-C, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced being a female in the industry?
So I guess a couple different viewpoints, at Tri-C, there is just a tremendous amount of women, so, and I haven't had that for a long time in different industries. So that's great. I mean, my executive vice president I report to, on his staff of VPs, 4 out of 5 are women. So that's lovely. I CIO and HR. That's been great. And throughout the college, we definitely have that culture. But as being in the construction side of it and being an owner and going to a lot of organizations, it's still male dominated. So I do, I know there's a lot of, young engineers and a lot of young construction managers coming up. And, but I do, hope to see more continuing to move up at the executive level when we're doing presentations and we're bidding large projects, and 4 teams of firms are coming in many times. All 4 teams will be predominantly all male. There might be a female engineer, there might be a female architect, but we're still seeing at that executive level presentation, we're still seeing it, we're dominated by males and females. But I'm also very hopeful because I do think we have a growing number of women in the field that are, project managers and superintendents that, I've gotten to work with over the last 5 years. And I see that, hope continue to see that up. But ownership, I'd love to see more, more Heathers, more Terry Rivera's,
Yes.
that kind of growth of women construction firms would continue to be awesome. So-
Absolutely. Thank you. Heather, so as an owner, how do you manage being an owner in the construction industry in a male-dominated field?
I guess knowing my job, I know my job. I come like Cindy, I came out of general industry, but I was in management. So I learned a lot in that space. So when I came over to construction and opened up my own business, it wasn't as difficult because I've sat in rooms with them. I've sat in the meetings with them. I'm used to not seeing me across the table. And I was on a mission.
So
to
know
speak.
your information.
You want to know your information. And if you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. Can you explain it? Or I'll get back to you with an answer. We have to be able to do that and not think that everybody around that table knows everything. You're there as a team. You're there to collaborate and bounce ideas and share knowledge with one another.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then last but not least, Sonia, when it comes to a legal standpoint and you're delivering feedback to contractors about some of the contracts, what type of response do you get from male versus female?
It's an interesting question, Suzy. I don't know that I actually do get different responses from male or female contractors that I'm working with. So I represent architects, I represent engineers, I represent contractors, subcontractors, owners, and that's an interesting question because you would expect there to be a difference in the way my counsel is received by men and women in the industry, but it's really not. And when we were talking last week, I shared with you the observation that I see a lot of women attorneys in the construction space. So a lot of times when I'm negotiating with an attorney who's representing the other side of a contract, for example, that attorney, that construction lawyer is a woman. And I think that the industry has had to kind of, I will say this, I don't think that this was the case 15 years ago. But increasingly, I think contractors and construction business owners and architecture firms and engineering firms, when I'm talking with my clients, they are increasingly accustomed to having their attorney be a female.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm not, now, again, this is not the case, 10, 15 years ago when perhaps my client might, a male client might not have expected to receive construction law advice from a female attorney, but I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing a difference these days, which is
That's
good.
fantastic.
It really
Yeah.
is.
That's great. Great. So the next question we have is, how do you advance gender and equity in Cleveland? And what are we lacking? I'm actually going to start with Heather Baines on this one. I was going to, and I said, you know what? Let me bring in an owner standpoint. Question is how to advance gender and equity in Cleveland, and what are we lacking?
I think that like this week, celebrating women, I think that a lot of the women in the room, like the women up here on the panel, we're in good spots. And I think to increase women, we have to reach out to women. We have to let younger women know where the spaces are at, where the opportunities are at, and we need to be intentional about it. I think that to get that equity, every woman in this room, a lot of us know each other. A lot of us have been in contact or at different events. I think that we're stronger in numbers, and we have to be intentional of keeping up with each other and talking to each other and just being in that space and letting Cleveland know we exist, that this organization exists. And within this organization are so many other organizations to try to help keep building it and build upon it.
Absolutely. So Cindy, I know you're ready for this question. We've discussed several different avenues of what we could do to advance. So how, from your experience, what do you see as a way for us to advance gender and equity in Cleveland? And what are we currently lacking?
So I think that, I do think it's important. One of the things I think the professional groups that we're talking about, today, NAWIC and CEA and Cogents and all these other organizations, ACE Mentor, we do need to have that network. I think that some of the women in college, definitely the STEM women, a lot of the universities are providing STEM women networks. So I think there's a logical transition to go from having that, because they know that when in many industries, when they get out in the field, they might be in the minority. So I think that is important that they have that. I also think that we have to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So, there's, in my case, there are not a lot of owners that are, female. And when positions come up in the area at other organizations, I think that the culture of those organizations need to start thinking about putting more females in the head of the construction master planning process, and as well as the women themselves need to throw their names in the hat. I think sometimes we always think we have to, like, when we look at those roles and responsibilities, we think we have to have everything, and we don't. You can have the majority of it, and you can grow into it, and you can have mentors. And I think sometimes we don't throw our names in the hat. And that was even in my case, the campus presidents sort of submitted my name and said, you need to go for this. Because a lot of what we do is problem solving and communication. And so I just think it's a combination. I think the cultures of organizations have to, look at, why we're not seeing more women leading some of these groups, as well as we also have to just start throwing our names in the hat and going for it more. So
absolutely. So to add, the positions that Cindy and I have talked about, these are more senior management, executive level positions for women to apply for. And she's informed me that oftentimes women are just not going for these roles. So men counterparts are obtaining these positions, not having half the qualifications, but just saying that, yes, we could do it. And let's be honest, almost majority of us, whether Zoom call or here in person, can do the job. Regardless of what the job is, we can do it. We just have to make sure that we have the confidence in ourselves to say, yes, we could do that. Great. So Cindy, you did mention professional associations. How does your company, or how does Tri-C help support employees in joining professional associations, and what do you gain from them?
Well, so there's a combination. First of all, they support us financially to go to different conferences, to be a part of. We have individual membership reimbursement, and we have college sort of group membership. So that we have that support. We also make sure if we're doing the group, we move that around so other people have the opportunity to attend some of those events. And then we have inside, we have our own, women's leadership group. We have our own, just different types of support diversity groups that we have conversations and dialogues and bring in authors and volunteer days. And those kind of things just sort of bringing us together, I think has been really great. And just having the freedom to do that, and to really embrace it and know that it's sort of part of your role and part of your culture.
Fantastic. Sonia,
If I may, I wanted
Yes,
to, I wanted
was
to
gonna
build
add
upon
you in.
something. I'm just dying to jump in here because I think, first of all, I love that question. How do we advance gender and diversity and equity in Cleveland? I love that question because there are a million different ways to answer it. There's no one right way.
Right.
And anybody in this room is going to come at that question from a different angle, different perspective, and different suggestions for how we accomplish just that. And Heather and Cindy have touched on two really important ways to do that. But something that Cindy said really jumped out at me about women not applying for those leadership roles, right? And Cindy, it's interesting. You said that you were actually encouraged to apply for your position, and I think that touches on a couple of things. One, I think that sometimes the reason women don't go for those leadership roles is because they don't see people. We don't see people like us in those roles. So we assume that that's not available to me.
Or it's too hard for us or something, like we can't do it. Right.
Exactly. That I'm missing some qualification for that role because I'm female. Because I don't look around at the board level or the C-suite level and see people who look like me. I just assume, why would I even bother applying for that position? Right. And so I think that a key component of advancing women in whatever profession it is having role models and mentorship, and having women who are in, for example, Heather's and Cindy's positions, really encourage women and mentor them so that women have more courage to apply for leadership positions. And in Cindy's case, you had a champion. Right. You had somebody really encouraging you to do that. And we as women can also champion other women to apply for those leadership roles, or to go and get that advanced degree, or to take advantage of training and education in order for us to feel more confident when we do take a chance and apply for that leadership role. But it just, again, there are so many ways to answer that question, but I do think it's important that we start seeing more women in leadership roles, and that the women that we have in leadership roles, we have so many representatives from the county and the city here today. You're in leadership roles. You can set examples for other women who want to say, I want to advance my career to that point. And I think it's critical for those of us who are in more senior positions, or who are owners or executive level women, to encourage younger women, to encourage women who are at an earlier stage in their careers to really go for it, and not to assume that just because you don't see somebody like you at the executive level means that you are somehow precluded from applying for that position.
Absolutely. Thank you. That actually was segue into my question about leadership awareness. And I think you hit that right on the head. So, and then I just want to ask Rena, from a gender and equity standpoint, I know you mentioned negotiations earlier, and I know you and I have had this conversation. How or what type of tools or resources would you say are available to women when they go through that negotiation process? How many of you guys have been in the same position for X amount of years and you're like, okay, let me kind of reassess where I am. How do I advance to the next position? If you don't have a champion like Cindy, what can you do to get there? Right? How do you come up with the game plan? If you're a project engineer and say, okay, I have the skill set and I've done this for X amount of years, now I want to be a project manager. Who do you go to? How do you kind of do that negotiation? How do you research salary requirements, things like that? Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of what that process looks like?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're looking, I guess, to advance in general, I mean, you have to take a little ownership in your own career and your own advancement. So I would look at the role you want to go to and what are those skills and qualifications to get there, and how you might match that, and then from there, I would kind of build your own case, build what you've done. Don't be afraid to celebrate your wins and the areas that you might even have to improve upon, because you're never going to go into the next role 100% performing at that role, right? Like the point is to grow into that role, to develop yourself into that role. So you're not always going to check off every single box. You're going to check off maybe 75%, 80%, and that's a good building block for that next position. And then I would, similar to try to find that role model, that advocate, that champion that you could lean into, whether that's a coworker or somebody from a past employer or a past project or a teammate, somebody that you can kind of reach out to and lean on to ask for that assistance to help you prepare to ask those questions, and then ask them. Just ask them. You might get told no, but at least you asked the question. You didn't knock yourself out before you tried. And that's typically what I'll see is a lot of women won't ask that question. Why not me? Similar, why don't I apply for that role? I don't meet all the qualifications. Most gentlemen will apply for a role, even if they don't meet, we'll say like 3 of the qualifications. Like I will see resumes where they're not meeting it and women are overly qualified and they're applying for these roles that are below their qualifications because they don't see themselves in that next role. So just put yourself in the ring. You never know when that chance is gonna, when you're gonna get called, that chance is gonna be there, that opportunity for you is gonna show up. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Thank you. Great response. Next question, and I will start with Sonia on this one. How is your company / department advancing women in leadership roles right now?
Love that question too. You're full of great questions, Suzy. I am privileged enough to serve on my firm's Women's Leadership Initiative Steering Committee. So we have an entire initiative that is dedicated to, first of all, identifying what are the challenges that we're facing with recruiting and retaining female attorneys. What can we do to support and enhance our efforts at recruiting and retaining female attorneys? And how can we present proposals to our board of directors that, again, can help my firm to meet these opportunities? And, you know, I heard the word challenge used earlier and the word struggle, and I'm going to use the word opportunity, but I think we're all talking about the same thing. And so I'm really happy I get to serve on this committee. And one of the things that we're doing right now is we're bringing in a speaker who's going to be giving 3 courses over the course of the next 3 months about how women attorneys can develop business. And so we do a lot of education among the women attorneys, and we offer mentorship circles for our female attorneys so that we have, and they are in fact circles. So you have in your mentorship circle, you might have women who have been practicing for 35 years and others who just got out of law school 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And then women in between. And so you get a nice balance of women who are able to talk, kind of like today, where we've got a balance of women talking from different stages of their careers and coming at it from different angles to kind of mentor and guide and support each other.